Well, Mrs. Bennet is not very bright, I suppose. Well, at least this is my view of it and the way I'm tackling it. She's not very bright. She's extremely nervous in company. She's a social climber. She always wants to give a good impression and frequently makes a complete fool of herself. You know, one of those people that continually get the wrong end of the stick. She takes umbrage very quickly. She jumps in. She doesn't think what she's saying. She leaps in straight away. I wouldn't like to have to live with her.
You don't find the society somewhat confined and unvarying for your taste?
Confined and unvarying, indeed it is not, sir. The country is a vast deal pleasanter than town, whatever you may say about it.
Mamma, you mistake Mr. Darcy's meaning.
Do I? Do I? He seems to think the country nothing at all.
Mamma.
Confined, unvarying. I would have him know we dine with 24 families.
She makes one vulgar remark after another. She exposes Elizabeth to all kinds of feelings, chief amongst which is shame. As we said, you know, shame is a very powerful presence in the girl's life because they are so subject to other people's whims. Elizabeth thinks that she will be known, and she's right, she is known as the girl with the unspeakably crass and vulgar mother.
She is annoying and she is a fool, and I wouldn't like to have a mother like that, making a complete fool of the family most of the time. But she never does it with bad intention.
Mrs. Bennet is a very ambitious mother for all of her daughters, and Jane and Elizabeth have each other very much as a sort of island of sanity within quite a wild household. So I suppose Jane and Elizabeth do keep the family together.
Has anything been heard?
No, not yet. But now our uncle has come, I hope everything will be well. Our father left for town on Tuesday, and we've heard from him only once since then to tell us he has arrived in safety. Mamma has been asking for you every 5 minutes since daybreak.
Oh, and how is she?
She has not yet left her room.
And you look pale. Oh, Jane, how much you must have gone through.
I'm so happy to see you, Lizzie. Come.
The scenes between Elizabeth and Jane are very much two girls having a gossip about their boys, really, and mainly about Jane's boy, and the things that are going on in the community. And they're wonderful scenes. They are intimate, and they're funny. And it's a private, we go into the bedroom, we go into one of their bedrooms or the other to do the scenes. And it's a lovely feeling of sort of the family all have gone to sleep, and the two girls in sort of candlelight are washing their hair, sort of having a gossip.
Only take care you fall in love with a man of good fortune.
Well, I shall try to please you. And you?
I am determined that nothing but the very deepest love will induce me into matrimony. So, I shall end an old maid and teach your 10 children to embroider cushions and play their instruments very ill.
You see them letting their hair down and talking rather frankly and sometimes quite sadly. I mean, I think that they realistically face up to the problems of their lives. I mean, the difficulty of finding a sort of way of living in the future. And, you know, that seems to me to be very near Jane Austen's own biographical experience. You know, she had a single sister in a family, in fact, of brothers. She was very close to the sister, and neither of them succeeded in finding a husband, though both of them saw somebody that they would have married. But in the case of Cassandra, who was engaged, the man died, and Jane never saw hers again. So I think that you feel with those two girls, those elder two girls, something very close to Jane Austen's own family experience.
Lizzie would love to get married, but she has determined that she will not get married unless she is very deeply in love. And I think she is willing to accept that may never happen.
statistics show that at this time in real life, about half the women did not marry, especially women of the upper orders didn't marry, because you really couldn't without a bit of money of your own. And it's very interesting that they basically are looking at rather upper-class men.
And Darcy comes down so far in terms of income and social scale because he's sexually attracted to Elizabeth almost from the first moment he sees her, and he just tries to fight against it, but she just turns him on, and it's actually her cheekiness, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Her lack of respect,
her lack
really.
of deference.
That's right.
He's surrounded by people who are just crawling up his bottom, basically, but she takes him on, doesn't
He's
she?
used to very artificial women, and he's used to women who, really, it would be a Cinderella story for most women, even Miss Bingley, if he wanted to marry her. So for someone like Lizzie Bennet...
Well, Lizzie's obviously always attracted to him in some way because he's so important to her. She cares what he thinks, and she wouldn't take him on as a sort of sparring partner if she weren't impressed by him and by his presence, even though she does think it's ridiculous. So there's always an attraction there, it's just that it's the flip side.
I think Elizabeth and Darcy do have elements in common. I think that the pride and the prejudice exist in both characters, equally but differently. And I don't think she would have developed the prejudice against him quite as violently had not her pride been hurt. In fact, Jennifer, who plays Elizabeth, found this in the playing of it, that she's quite prepared to be amused by Darcy's arrogance, even when her mother's slighted, but when she herself gets slighted, it becomes a sort of obsession, I think.
Look, there's one of her sisters. She's very pretty too. I dare say, very agreeable.
She is tolerable, I suppose. But she's not handsome enough to tempt me. Bingley, I'm in no humour to give consequence to young ladies who are slighted by other men. Go back to your partner. Enjoy her smiles. You're wasting your time with me. Although she clearly despises the man, she also seems to be very much preoccupied with him and very concerned with his opinion, which is not quite consistent with feelings towards someone you despise. So one will have to make of that what one will and ascertain when, when her feelings towards him start to change. But I think it's their similarities that bring them to clash, and I think it's the pride in both of them that does so. Also, she's clearly blinded to his huge elements of his true nature by prejudice.
Oh, I think that Elizabeth Bennet is perfectly matched with Mr. Darcy. They're like, they fit perfectly together. In all her books they do. The characters at the end, you sort of feel like the person isn't quite whole until they've met, until they've come together.
I'm neglecting you. How can you play with no one to turn the pages?